Hi there, I'm the underscore twig, and I like analysing game rules. Last video of Playtest 8, the Druid. I think that this is the first playtest that I've managed to cover in its entirety. See whatsy? These short playtests are quite nice. There are literally just two changes here. Wild Shape and the Moon Druid has another rework. There's a lot of cute fluffy animals this time, and cute fluffy animals are good. My Patreons are cute and fluffy, also good. They saw this video early and have very nice pets. SK is extra special though, because he purrs when you pat his head. I wrote this Patreon read at 11:57 after working a considerable amount of overtime. So, skipping straight to Wild Shape. It's now always a bonus action. You don't have to be a Moon Druid. I think this is actually a slight nerf, personally. With a Moon Druid you used to be able to choose whether you wanted to do it as an action or as a bonus action. And sometimes it was optimal to do it as an action. For example, if you were trying to Rage and Wild Shape on the same turn. If they brought in a new rule, as many people have asked, that says that you can bonus action as an action, then this is fine. If you remember from Playtest 6, the Druid now picks a list of known forms, and can only turn into them. This greatly reduces the time spent at the table flipping through the many bestiaries, and also reduces the unpredictability on the DM side. In practice, at many tables this is kind of how the feature worked anyway. The Druid would have looked through the many monster manuals before playing, realising that the brown bear and giant spider are normally the best beast forms, and maybe considered giant badger for the dig speed, and just bookmarked those pages or printed them off. As such, it's not really a very big change for many tables, if it changes anything at all. As a Druid, you know a number of forms equal to 2 plus half your Druid level, rounded up. That means 3 at second level, and 4 when you get your subclass at 3. That's slightly more than in Playtest 6, which is nice I guess. There is one other change to the known form section, and it's actually, in all seriousness, probably my single favourite change in this entire document. It's this bit here, chosen from among the B stat blocks in the player's handbook. So as many of you will be aware, there tends to be two opposing camps to Wild Shape redesigns. Wild Shape using monster stat blocks, and Wild Shape using custom templates. Monster stat blocks gives the Druid player far more freedom, and a huge selection of possible beasts to choose from. On the other hand, custom templates can be far more easily balanced. There are other arguments as well, but for me, those two arguments are the ones with the most weight. Freedom versus balance. Personally, I'm on Team Template. I was really excited in the Druid and Paladin playtest when we got templates, and then really disappointed because those templates were boring as sin. Anyway, how do you reconcile these two opposing camps? What if you made a curated list of monsters that the Druid can transform into? That way you can get a decent amount of freedom, while still giving yourself a small enough pool to effectively balance. That's exactly what they've done here. Even better, on the next page it says that you may still look at other sources, if the DM gives permission. You can still pick from anywhere, it's just no longer the default. This is a super minor change, but it honestly means so much to me. In my opinion, this is the second best outcome to something that could have gone pretty catastrophically wrong. Oh yeah, the other update to Wild Shape is that all Druids now get temp HP equal to their Druid level. That just gives you a bit of extra bulk. As far as I can tell, everything else here is the same as Playtest 6. Now onto Circle of the Moon. You get a small spell list which is automatically prepared, and you can cast them wild in Wild Shape. The notable ones are Starry Wisp, which is a decent new attack cantrip, so you always have a ranged attack option, even in offensively weak forms. Moonbeam, which is just a really solid spell. And maybe there could be something with Fount of Moonlight depending on how many attacks you get. You also get the increased CR, just like always, 3 times your Druid level and temp HP instead of just 1 times, and a pretty decent AC of 13 plus Whiz, which is one of the stats that you retain when you Wild Shape. That's just some nice, but by no means broken, bulk. Sports Druids have been doing effectively the same thing as this for years, and I've seen no real problems from them. The only remaining potential worry is that the offensive capabilities of Wild Shape are far stronger than what a Marshal could do, which was one of the many problems with Moon Druid in 2014. Moving up to 6th level though, improved circle forms gives you variable damage for Radiant, which is nice, and allows you to add your Whiz to your con saves while Wild Shaped, effectively giving you concentration protection baked into your subclass. That's really good. Now no Warcaster please, Watsy. Jumping out of Moon Druid for a moment, quick reminder that at 7th level, if you choose Primal Strike, your beast form's attacks do an extra 1d8 elemental damage once per turn. At 10th level, Moonlight Step is Whiz times per day Misty Step, except you also get advantage on your next attack roll on that turn. You don't even have to be Wild Shape for this one, and you can cast it even more by spending 2nd level slots. so it's actually just an entire Misty Step replacement. There's no reason to even prepare that anymore. This is obviously a nice feature. Misty Step is a great spell, so having better Misty Step is even greater. Moondruid's subclass Capstone at 14th level allows them to do an extra 1d10 on every attack, and it also allows you to bring an ally with you when you Moonlight Step. Then at 15th level, your 1d8 once per turn upgrades to 2d8, and at 18th level you can cast any spell whilst wild-shaped. It's overall a fairly simple subclass, mainly just numerical boosts and then a teleport. But that's all I think the Moon Druid should be. I think that this version of the Moon Druid is good, on paper. Unfortunately, I haven't got a clue what the beasts in the PHP will look like, and that's the entire power of the Moon Druid. I legitimately can't judge this. If the brown bear in the book is unchanged, then I'm afraid. If it's not, then I'm okay. The one really simple change that I would like to see is an addition to the 6th level feature, Improved Circle Forms, which just says you can take the multi-attack action. Don't allow it before then, but it's fine after 6. Those 6 words would set me at ease, and stop me from having to worry about how to balance combat for a party with a Moon Druid next to a group of standard unoptimised characters. If I left it there, this would be a really short video, so I'm going to do a bit of variety content around my experience with the Playtest 8 so far, both in and out of game. First up, mainly due to relevance, in my Monk video I said that the melee Druid might want to dip Monk, but I'm not convinced. Yeah, about that. A giant scorpion with conjure minor elementals cast up to 5th level and a bonus action attack is like really good. The player even took 2 more monk levels to get an incredible reaction, some extra healing and a bonus action dodge. The monk dip is incredibly strong. We did a 13th level playtest with all of these classes actually, as well as a glamour bard using the expert classes version of Magical Secrets, but with all class spell lists instead of the 3 big lists. Barbarian's new staggering blow is great. Using alert to have the barbarian swap initiative to immediately before the bard, who could then stick the saving throw spells, was really good. The monk had practically too many discipline points. They can realistically use 3 max on most rounds, often less. I think that we got through 2 fights before the first short rest, and I still had a 1 DP left, without having used Uncanny Metabolism. They were playing an Elements monk, and we did have to do a quick ban of grappling an enemy and then using Step of the Wind and the Grappler feat to fly 100 feet upwards and drop them. That was far too powerful. The bard also got to play around with Conjure Celestial, and oh my god, yeah, that spell is not sticking around, thank you very much. Because all 3 other PCs could either grapple or push, I think that on one round in particular they managed to deal an effective 48 d8 of damage, and only 3 of the saving throws were passes. Outside of those few issues though, it went really well. Monk seems to be a lot of fun. Next up, I want to give a few comment responses from my video on the Barbarian. First, several of you asked why I thought that the movement given by Forceful Blow uses your character's normal movement, when Instinctive Pounce right above doesn't. My answer is, I forgot to check the wording on Instinctive Pounce. Most features which give additional movement specifically say so, or are clearly triggered by an action or reaction. Look at the jump spell, the Cleric and Species jump action, or the Dance Bard's inspiring movement. Forceful Blow doesn't do either of these things, so I assumed that rather than it being 15 additional feet of movement, it was 15 feet of movement where you couldn't trigger opportunity attacks. Having read it again, I'm not sure if I was right. Next up, I got a couple of comments basically pointing out that many monsters, especially those over CR5, are getting redesigned so that they have some form of non-BPS damage. This is really bad for the Barbarian, because it means that they will get significantly less protection from rage. It simply won't apply resistance as often. I do not think that this is good for the game. I really want them to do more with damage types, but the thing I want them to do is make more vulnerabilities, so players are rewarded for experimenting. Having monsters do different damage types is not really doing anything other than making it harder for players to prepare. If they must go down this direction, I'd like for Rage's resistance to be changed to melee attacks, and then maybe Bear can add on ranged attacks. That's a complex resistance rather than resistance to specific types, as is normal, but it's not a confusing mechanic, so I don't see a problem outside of it just being abnormal. Last comment is this absolute doozy. So, this is in reference to Brutal Strike causing you to forego advantage. In the video I said that if there was a situation where you would have both advantage and disadvantage, such as being in a darkness spell, Brutal Strike would cause you to forego all forms of advantage so you'd have disadvantage. What is being suggested here is that in this case the advantage and the disadvantage cancel out, so you don't have any advantage to give up, so you can't use Brutal Strike. I'm using this as a jumping off point to take you all through the weird ride of advantage timing. So, completely different scenario. Let's say that you've just successfully taken the hide action. In the playtest, that means that you now have the invisible condition. In that specific moment, immediately after hiding, you do not, quote, have advantage. Advantage is not a condition. You have the invisible condition, which can grant you advantage in particular circumstances. I'm going to call this an advantage granting condition. Now it's your next turn and you make an attack roll. What you functionally do next is a tick box exercise. Do you have an advantage granting condition? Yes, you have the invisible condition. Do you have a disadvantage granting condition? No. Therefore, your attack roll has advantage. Advantage exists only at the roll itself, not before and not after. At all other times, you only have an advantage granting condition. What Brutal Strike does is it allows you to forego advantage. This is not the same as giving up advantage. To forego is proactive. To give up is retroactive. In effect, it adds a third question. Do you want to use your advantage granting condition? So, let's go back to using Brutal Strike in Darkness. Before the attack roll, because you have to say it when you first activate Reckless Attack, you decide to use Brutal Strike. Do you have an advantage granting condition? Yes, you have Heavy Obscurement and also Reckless Attack, but those only count for one. Do you want to use your advantage granting condition? No, you have already chosen to use Brutal Strike instead. Do you have a disadvantage granting condition? Yes, your target is heavily obscured. As you have disadvantage and you've chosen not to take your advantage, you do not have advantage to cancel out, and therefore you only have disadvantage. This is obviously a bit complicated, but in simple terms, yes, you can forego advantage even if you have disadvantage. The last thing I'm going to do in this video is be a bit self-important. So the purpose of this playtest is of course to get public feedback. I think that this playtest in particular shows that they really are actually listening. They gave the monk more low-level DP management and brought back monk weapons. They also gave the barbarian some actually good high-level features. These are things that we've been asking for ages. Personally, I run a YouTube channel, where the D&T playtest is the main thing I talk about. I know some of you wish I would talk about some other things sometimes. I would like to think that I have a slightly bigger impact than most other people. Obviously wizards are not following my every word, otherwise we'd still be using the playtest 5 warlocks. But I have noticed a few things when I've pointed out really weird or janky features, and rules with unintended consequences. When I made my video on hiding, just a couple of playtests later, they had streamlined it to fix most of the issues. After I made my video about how awful the cleric and species climb speed rules were, they changed it in the very next playtest. This could just be me looking for signs though. Hiding was incredibly weird, and loads of people absolutely hated the new movement rules. Playtest 8 has something a bit different though. I watch and read a lot of content about the playtest. I absolutely can't claim to have seen it all, not even close, but I try to keep tabs on opinions and findings. As far as I'm aware, I am the only person who talked about the issues with Battering Roots working outside of your turn and its impact on opportunity attacks. If you're a magus who lives by the sea and you've been watching my videos, thank you. Right, humble brag over. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed my coverage of Playtest 8. I believe that the survey opens on December the 11th. I'm planning on this video getting released on the 10th, so hopefully I'm in time. If you haven't seen my other videos on the playtest, give them a watch before filling out the survey. Especially my one about the monk. That goes into a lot of detail. Subscribe so you don't miss my next video. It's going to be on locate objects and it's planned to come out hopefully sometime next week, maybe early the week after. Bye!